Welcome to the EMOlition Derby podcast. I'm your host, Alessandro, and I'm a huge music nerd. I've been playing in bands for well over a decade, but have since gone on to become a music journalist working for several notable outlets, including alternative press. As a journalist, I cover a wide range of stories within music, culture, fashion, and just about everything else. However, I would say that first and foremost, I'm an alternative and emo historian and want to use this podcast as a means to connect with artists, musicians, and creatives to get the answers that I've always wanted and have an open forum to discuss fascinating stories within our special underground community. We release one episode per week that will either be long-form interviews with myself and a host of brilliant artists and figures from prominent acts across a wide range of genres, as well as other episodes where I sit down with my closest friends and co-producers, Joe Giordano and Ethan Fuller, to have what we call roundtable discussions. For those episodes, expect nerdy deep dives on music, as well as our fair share of hot takes and fiery debates. Whether we are sitting down with your favorite artists or just having fun between the three of us, EMOlition Derby is a must-listen podcast for all things alternative, emo, and beyond. For today's episode, I am joined by my good friends Kat Leone and Nick Perez of the Los Angeles-based alt-rock duo Holy Wars. Recorded in person in my brand new home studio, courtesy of our lovely co-host and producer Joe, I sat down with Holy Wars after cooking them a lovely Italian feast to discuss their breakout year in 2022. In 2022 alone, Holy Wars released their long-awaited debut album, Eat It Up, Spit It Out, this past April. And what followed was a wild ride unlike anything else. The band spent their summer playing back-to-back sold-out record release shows and ended up opening 3 dates on tour with the legendary acts Coheed and Cambria and Alkaline trio, playing massive amphitheaters and essentially borderline stadiums opening for these bands, including the historic Greek Theater in Berkeley, California. Additionally, Holy Wars went on a high-profile tour with the TikTok sensation Scene Queen and amassed a rabid fan base in the process. This interview was so much fun to record, and we really get to see an inside look into the dynamic between Kat and Nick, both within their creative and personal relationship with one another, as well as their journey to get to where they are today, and the future of the band that is constantly evolving both sonically and lyrically. Without any further ado, here's my conversation with Kat and Nick of Holy Wars. All right, we are doing the first ever in-person episode of EMOlition Derby. I am joined by my very good friends, Kat and Nick, otherwise known as Holy Wars. Holy shit. Holy Wars. What's up?
What's up?
What's up?
We just ate a bunch of pasta. We had a nice little Italian meal.
A lot of wine.
A
shroomy.
It was delicious. Yeah. Incredible.
It was, it was some Olive Garden shit. No, it was much better than that.
Way better.
Me and my better half, Rachel, who also happens to be your manager. So this is some, some family ties shit right here. We're very in deep here. So yeah, for context, we're in Los Angeles, or actually Pasadena for that matter, and it's currently raining cats right here.
Yes, meow.
And so we're just sitting down having a little discussion. So I kind of wanted to start off sort of tracing the lines back to who was Kat and Nick in high school when you were discovering music? Who was on your wall? Like, what was your poster? What was your cringy AOL instant messenger away message? What was your vibe? Who were you growing up?
I was very cringe, actually. I mean, I think I still am, but I was very cringe back then. I was very much into alternative music. I have an older sister and a brother, so they taught me a lot of music way beyond my years. So Beastie Boys were up there. Garbage, The Crow. I was obsessed with the movie The Crow.
I just wrote a little article about that recently, about The Crow. It's the best soundtrack of the 90s.
It is.
It's
I love
amazing.
it. I had it. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, at that time I had like every soundtrack too. Like soundtracks were great back then, actually. But yeah, I embarrassingly to admit, I grew up on the East Coast, so it was all about Broadway over there. So I got swept up in like the Broadway scene. So that's kind of where I taught myself how to sing and be a dumbass.
Yeah, I grew up in Las Vegas, and there was a really cool punk hardcore scene there. So the first stuff that I was really into when I was in high school, when I was first getting into music, was all punk hardcore, like all the Fat Records catalog and all the Epitaph stuff and Nitro Records and, AFI and No Use for a Name and Ensign and Straight Faced and all of those bands. I would see someone would be coming into town every week, and I would go once or twice a week to see somebody new, and yeah, that's was all I was doing in high school. Yeah, a lot of punk hardcore. Yeah.
Were you guys cool kids in high school?
No, I don't think so. I don't think I was. If you asked me at the time, I probably told you I was. Like, yeah, fuck yeah. No, I think I just kind of floated around. Like, I never was a part of any clique. But I had, like, good friends that we would, like, be cool with everybody. But then, I actually got into a big fight a few times. Got suspended for fighting. So I also wasn't cool with a few people, too.
Oh, fuck. Okay.
Yeah. I had a lot of anger. Yeah, I was kind of loud, talkative. So yeah, maybe more people hated me than I'm willing to admit.
I don't think I was very popular. I wasn't unpopular, but I kind of am pretty much then how I am now, which I just didn't really talk to anybody. I just really wanted to get out of there and go work on music, and I haven't really changed.
He never wanted to attend any dances or anything that like other kids were a part of.
Dances kind of sucked, though.
Yeah.
Like, let's be honest. Like, dances were
a
horrible thing the pressure to put on.
So much
people.
pressure. Yeah.
Yeah, not a thing I would ever redo. Going to high school dances, probably.
No way.
Yeah.
No.
Not fun. So obviously, like you're mentioning, obviously you're one of your biggest influences, Shirley Manson. Nick is referencing No Use for a Name and No Effects. And I think that's really cool because I think Holy Wars, all these years later, since you were those kids, it does, you see the lineage between those two, very different artists.
Absolutely.
Between the two things. Obviously, like Nick is not playing just straight down the middle, just punk chords and fucking, I will argue No Effects have some of the most complex chord structures in their music, I would say.
Oh, you're absolutely right, dude. Yeah, I mean, you have such a good ear, Yeah, their stuff is really complex.
Really complex music, but it's so cool because, Holy Wars, when we were having dinner, we were talking about your band, and I kind of saved this for the conversation, but Holy Wars is in I think, a great place where you guys can obviously fit in so many different, genres, so many different bills. And I think that's really important. I think that's a huge strength. And sometimes I think in the industry, some people will want to put you in that box and pigeonhole you.
We've heard it several times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's bullshit, right?
It's all bullshit.
Yeah.
It's totally. I mean, music is music. Is it good? That's all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
Is the songs, are they good? Mm-hmm. I get to like our set, whenever that question comes up from like a booking agent of ours or whatever, where they're like, we don't know where to place you. We have enough music in our catalog that if it is an alt-leaning festival, say, or artists that we are paired up with, then we can lean our set in that direction. We also have a lot of hardcore, heavy moments too. And I actually think we perform more as a punk band than we do as like this, I don't know, polished alternative, thing. I feel like we kind of we have a lot of visceral on stage,
Yeah, you see it with your music. Like it doesn't, there is a big formula for a lot of alternative artists, you would say today. And I think Holy Wars approaches music in a very different way where there's none of that bullshit at the beginning, It's very much you're still those two kids in a room, your house, essentially making tons of the music in your house.
Yeah.
As if you were still 16 years old. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think that's what's so important. Like you have that magic. You're going to bed at night, probably ears still ringing because you're, working on a song all night and you're listening to the masters. Like you are living it and breathing it every day, where, other artists, maybe, they have somebody, scheduling calendar invites, be like, this is the day that we're going to write and create, which you do a lot of that, obviously.
Yeah, we do work. We get to work with other artists, which is really cool. So we'd see that side of it. But when it's our music, we like to really kind of go within, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, it's kind of like you guys, a lot of times when you're just creating for Holy Wars, because obviously you guys do a ton of other stuff. You do stuff for Sync, you write for people, tons of stuff. But for Holy Wars, would you say that it is kind of like a process where you are simply just, you're like, I want to write a song right now. I'm feeling creative. Let's just do that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we even have to get to the point where we even schedule for us now, just because we've even been on like kind of ships passing in the night sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, like today's a great example. I was, running and feeling creative, and I'm like texting him like, I got so many ideas, but he was working on another song at the moment. So there are times where even if I'm like in the moment inspired, I have to just write everything down and wait. But a lot of times we are just, let's write something right now. And he's going to bed, really late, and we are thinking about music 24/7. I think we both have an obsession with it, maybe to an unhealthy level, but it is the thing that gets us excited every day, is writing music, at least for me. But
oh yeah, I lost track of what the question was, but
I will derail any question.
No, and I'll ask probably 7 questions within one question. So I can, for you, Nick, I feel like I could be wrong, but. And I was thinking of this today when I was in the shower today. You guys can visualize me in the shower now.
Yes.
I'm always have just like I'm like Beavis and Butthead, they're like, da-na-na, da-na-na, da-na-na. That's always in my head. And I don't make music to the rate that you guys are making music at the level or any of that. But I'm still, even just myself, I'm in the shower going dun-dun-dun, 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 like just like doing breakdowns in my head. Yeah. And I feel like, Nick, because you are a man of a few words sometimes, but when you do speak, it matters a lot. Like you have a lot to say when you do speak. But I wonder, is there always a riff going on in your head? I feel like there has to be. I feel like when you're not talking, there's just dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun, like going on in your head. Am I wrong or am I right?
Yeah, no, yeah.
It,
I always have something going on in my head, and has been like that for years and years and years. I can't remember the last time it stopped, but sometimes it's a little drum fill that's repeating over and over again, and sometimes it's a riff or something I'm trying to figure out. But yeah, it never stops. Yeah.
There'll be times when we're like watching a movie or something, and I'll just hear him go, and I'm like, oh, you're writing something right now? And he's like, oh, was I? He just like, it just is 24/7. I don't think he's even aware of it when it happens.
Yeah.
He does the Mr. Rogers, like, oh, I didn't see you come in here. And he's like already like constructed this whole song.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Didn't you say like you had a girlfriend in high school that like maybe you guys kind of broke up because of it? Because like you never wanted to hang out.
That sounds right.
Yeah. Just wanted to work on music.
That sounds right.
Well, I mean, that segues really well because, I mean, of course it's going to come up. You guys are a couple.
Yes, it's something we don't really put out there as much because, we're like, it's not about that when it comes to the music.
Of course not.
But yeah, I mean, we were musician partners first, and then such a cliche, but one tour, it was just like, oh, I think this is happening. And it's been happening for quite a while now.
Now Nick's just silently serenading you going,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know what? That's what did it, actually.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I feel something down there.
I mean, that's got to be so nice that, like, with I see it all the time with either friends or just bands I love where, it's got to be really hard. Like, imagine if y'all weren't dating, okay? And you're just dating like a very normie person, okay? And like they're back at home, just fucking watching 90 Day Fiance on us, which I do. Like, it's great.
Okay.
Which, no judgment. But, like, you're out on tour, like, you're living and breathing music. You have this wiring, this emotionality, it's a personality trait to be an artist in itself.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you don't have to deal with
Level
that,
of
like,
insanity.
sorry, babe, like, I gotta go to the studio. It's like, you guys are the studio,
Yeah.
you know? And
We actually find that to be like a huge value of us being together. I mean, we're not together because of the music, but we became better writers, better musicians once we started dating. I think because there was no, like having to work with other producers. Like we would definitely have the best interest for each other, and we only want to see each other grow and get better. So we're constantly supportive of each other, So I think being in a relationship has helped us as musicians, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we help bring out the best in each other,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even when sometimes we just want to wring the other person's neck over like a lyric or a chord.
I don't believe that at all.
I mean, our fights are very, very lame. Like compared to, I've been in some past relationship fights where it was like war sides of myself. But with him, it's if we ever have a disagreement, it's usually music related, and we squash it pretty quickly, or we compromise it, or it's the same issue that we just keep bringing back up.
Nick's like, maybe do a C instead of an F. That's okay. Like, fuck you. I mean, I feel like tracking vocals is such an intimate thing. And I always joke about this with our co-host for the show, Joe. You know Joe.
Yes.
So he is
Hi,
one
Joe.
of the co-hosts, one of the producers, along with my friend Ethan. And we always say it, we're like, he's seen me naked many times. Like,
Hell yeah. Well, I'm visualizing.
Well, yeah,
it too,
you've already
from the shower.
Yes, that's exactly.
Wait,
So
hold on.
He,
Yes. Okay.
okay.
Back.
Yes. So he's seen
I
me
just had to go back
in
there.
the shower, out of the shower, chase him around the house. Okay. But to me just bare butt ass naked in front of Joe is not as intimate as tracking vocals.
I fully agree.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
you guys, I mean, I don't know if you were waiting until marriage. You guys have probably seen each other naked before, probably.
I am a virgin, actually.
Oh.
No.
I had a feeling.
Yeah,
feeling.
sorry.
Okay.
That went long ago.
So I imagine, like, I mean, I think what I would imagine is like if me or Rachel are in a band together, and if I were to sing, and she has recorded with me once. She wrote some great lyrics to a song once.
Why haven't I heard this?
It's a nice little country ditty.
Okay.
It's called Desert.
You got the hat for it
Desert
over there.
Dwelling.
I thought it was one of those beatdown tracks that you were working on.
No, but her and Hazel came in when I was finishing one, and Hazel literally was like two-stepping. It was that's my puppy for all the listeners. But I was like thinking about that, and it's like you guys are obviously at this level where you guys have been dating for a long time, you've been making music together for a long time, you've experienced so much life together. If Nick's coming up with a riff that you're like, I don't know, like it's a little pedestrian, I don't think you say that. Or if Kat's in the
I'm going to now.
Or if Kat's in the vocal booth and she sings a lyric and Nick's like phoned in.
Pitchy.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Usually it's pitchy.
but can you guys you guys have that level now to be like, yo, that like you could do that better. Like,
Yeah, I think we've gotten there. Although we both have a tendency of being sensitive on certain days, I think when we're both having our period, but it's definitely
breaking news, Nick gets his period.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Didn't I tell you that? He's a miracle. But yeah, I think vocalists, and maybe because I am one, I'm speaking from that point of view, and other people would have a different point of view. But I do think it's the most vulnerable instrument because you are that instrument. When you are playing with a guitar, bass, whatever, keyboard, drums, you can always get better at that, or you can get a better instrument if that one's just not the right fit for you. But I am what I am, and I'm stuck with that. Whether I want a different tone or not, I can get better at my pitch or my control, my endurance. But I am what I am. That's it. I can't turn it in for anything else. So it is it's very vulnerable if somebody doesn't like what you do.
You got an Evertune, Nick?
I don't, but I was thinking about getting one.
No,
Yeah.
that's good. The solidarity with her. Okay. Okay. If her voice can go a semitone flat, so can your guitar.
It's an
All
even
right?
even playing field. Yeah. Uh-huh.
I mean, I don't even record through autotune, and a lot of people, that's like a thing. I'll be in other sessions with other artists, and it's I can see the benefit of it, but it's such a thing now where people are like, "Oh, you don't record with auto-tune?" I'm like, "Am I supposed to?"
I think that's so. Like, are you talking about like like Waves tune like live or like Antares live? Like, obviously not the post auto tune, obviously, because I mean there's pitch correction on everything.
Absolutely,
but
but singing to an auto-tune.
I think that's so dumb.
Live.
Why would anybody do that?
I guess it does help your pitch, and we have tried it because you're like, oh, try it, and I don't know. I think it didn't work out well because we don't do it. But
yeah, I mean the idea is that like you're just hearing it, you're not recording it. So if you get a little bit too far away from it, it kind of pulls you back, and you immediately tell, and you start singing in pitch. So it does affect how it records, and but if you're it depends on what you're trying to do, because if you're singing some really emotional song that needs a lot of expression, then that's going to have a big effect on it, and maybe you don't want that. Or even if you're singing like something that's like really bluesy and like really wild and weird, then that would also be a really bad idea. So it just depends on what it is. But if it kind of kills your vibe, then that's no good,
Yeah, it kills my boner.
Me and Joe used to make some like pretty bad SoundCloud rap type shit. And it was the last show I ever played before COVID was a SoundCloud type show, and Rachel's at it. Wow. And I used auto-tune live, but like T-Pain style auto-tune. Like I had Waves tune live, so like I just sounded like T-Pain up on stage. It was fucking bizarre.
It's a vibe though. I mean, a lot of people are doing it, and
not when the wrong scale is set on it,
Okay,
because then it just turns into like Mongolian throat singing at that point,
That's a vibe too. I might fuck with that.
Yeah, no, for sure. But so enough about auto-tune. So, the spring, I believe, Eat It Up, Spit It Out came out in what, April or May? Was that right?
April 29th, right?
April
I'm like looking back at
29th.
Yeah. I think so, yes.
Taurus season.
Oh, interesting.
Just because I'm a Taurus, it's near my birthday.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy summer that followed after that.
Yeah.
With a ton of stuff, but I think what is going to, blow a lot of our listeners away, the emo lay people right here. Sorry, listeners. You guys went on fucking tour with Coheed and Cambria and Alkaline Trio. Am I missing somebody? I think that's it.
We were winning us. Yeah.
Oh, and the Beatles. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty insane.
Yeah, within 24 hours notice.
Within 24 hours notice. For our listeners, could you recount that story a little bit? Because I think it's a really cool get him to the Greek type story. Which you did play the Greek, which is insane.
That was probably the highlight of my life. I don't know if I can top that.
And now you're in a shitty little recording studio in Pasadena. I mean,
that
from
tops
the Greek,
that.
From the Greek to here, I mean, wow.
We did get to the Greek. Yeah. Well, actually, I don't know. I'll probably turn away from some people now, but a psychic actually predicted that. I don't know if that's something that you've heard yet.
Briefly. Expand on that.
Well, okay. So I got recommended to go see this woman, and she was lovely, very nice. I don't see a lot of psychics, but I followed down the rabbit hole. And she said, oh, I see this opportunity coming up this summer where you're going to get a call to where you're going to have to literally drop everything, and you'll be playing in front of thousands of people outdoors. And I was thinking like, okay, well, we would have been told about festivals by this. I mean, those usually booked out way in advance, but maybe there'd be a drop off due to COVID or something. But even then I was like, I just don't see that happening. But I was like, oh yeah, sure. Not believing this woman at all. And she said, well, when you get this call, drop everything and do it. You must do this. So I was like, okay, lady, crazy. And it was about a month or two later, it literally happened exactly like that. We get a call from Rachel who said, what are you doing tomorrow? And I said, I don't think anything. Why? What's up? And she said, can you be at the shrine? Was it the shrine? Can you be at the shrine and open up for Coheed and Cambria? And at that point, our drummer, who we were just touring with this past year, was just coming off of a 2-month tour and was also back home in another state, driving cross country. So I didn't even know if he was even here. He drove in literally either the day of we got that call or the day before we got that call. And I called him. I said, hey, we have this opportunity. Are you in LA? And he's like, I just got here. Why? What's up? I said, can you play with us tomorrow at the Shrine opening for Coheed and Cambria, which he had gigs all weekend too. And he was like, oh, and at first he almost turned it down. I was looking back. How crazy was that? But he was like, oh, I don't know. I have a cover gig. I'm playing with a cover band. Because, when you're in town from tours, that's how a lot of musicians, you make your money just playing odd gigs around LA. And then he was like, I don't know if I can do it. Being loyal, didn't want to cancel. But of course, when he said, everybody was like, yeah, do that gig. And within 24 hours, we ended up playing the Shrine. We had one rehearsal at like midnight. I think that was our rehearsal.
Yeah, it was like 6 p.m. the night before.
When we got the call.
Yeah, and we're like, we have to put together all the gear, and where is everything, and is it all going to work? And like we rehearsed at 10 till like 1 in the morning, and just setting the stuff up and packing it up takes like an hour alone. Mm-hmm. Setting it up again at the rehearsal space takes like an hour, and then so yeah, it was pretty crazy, And
then we were at the Shrine.
And then you're playing the show, and I remember it was like, well, are you going to play the next show? And it was kind of like,
that's right.
I don't know.
We were just offered the first show, which was indoors. It wasn't outside yet.
And then the next day, you're playing all the way in San Diego at a fucking massive amphitheater. Mm-hmm. Fucking awesome. We drove down for it. Yes. Very cool.
Yes.
Very cool. I did leave after your set. I had a tummy ache.
All right.
And
the drummer of Coheed and Cambria was actually rocking out to us in the balcony. I saw a video of that, which was amazing.
It was incredible to witness. Yeah. And then not only that, but then the next day you played the Greek Theater in San Francisco.
Yeah, because I think at that point they were like, oh, you're going Sunday, right? So we just day by day just planned out another day of going on the road with them. It was incredible. It really was. And they were the nicest guys, all of them, Alkaline Trio as well. Their crew, nobody treated us like we were just like a last minute opener. Everybody treated us with the most like respect, and just I can't say enough. It was one of the greatest experiences we ever had.
I mean, that's insane. I mean, just who can say that just literally like, oh, like there was just a whole weekend that I was on basically like a stadium tour, essentially.
Yeah. I blacked out the whole weekend.
Yeah. Which is so crazy because you guys seemed like you had been doing the entire tour on night one, which was crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying that because you're my friends. Like it was, you could see people becoming fans in the crowd. And I remember at the San Diego show, I remember like nudging Rachel and being like, I saw like some bros in the crowd. And I was like, the bros like it.
Yeah.
If
you got the bros, you
it's
got
true.
it. Like,
being female fronted, it's a hard one to get.
You got everything. You got every demographic in the crowd was just like, oh, cool. This is my favorite band now.
The most validating thing too is when we went after that, we went on tour with Scene Queen.
Yes.
And we had, especially in by Berkeley, when we were in San Francisco, so many fans from that Coheed show came out. And they had just seen us not that long before it, but they were so excited to come back and see us. So it really proved a lot to us, which was really great. I think it definitely cemented us in like, okay, people like this, our people like this, whoever they are, they like it.
That's, I mean, what an amazing cap to the end of the summer. Your record's out. You do 2 back-to-back sold-out record release shows as well too.
Yeah, a week apart
in the same city. People, we're not making this up. I mean, you could spit from the 2 venues and you'd hit them, and they sold out both of those in a week apart.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah, we kind of made a trend. I don't know why this kept happening, but that also happened when we played with Scene Queen at the Roxy, and then with Bob Dylan at the Echo. That was also one right after the other. I don't know why we keep clustering our LA shows like that, but
you're kind of like Blackpink, like the big K-pop band. Like they're like, you just come in and clean up for a weekend and just fucking, here's $1 million. Here you go. Yeah. So Holy Wars are extremely rich for the listeners knowing that. I mean, fucking loaded yachts already. I need that psychic's number. That's really cool.
It was quite amazing. Yeah, after that story, I was like, okay, I have to like recommend this woman to everybody.
She's like, I see a long-haired man named Claudio on a stage summoning you to come up on stage.
Yeah, and we did. That hair, I have the biggest hair envy over Claudio's hair.
Shouts out Claudio. Shouts out the psychist. Psychist. Wow.
The psychist.
The psychist.
Diana Rankin's her name for anybody.
Diana Rankin.
Yes. Diana Rankin.
Wow. You rule, Diana.
And oddly enough, she looks like my sister if my sister was like 77. It was wild. So my sister ended up doing a reading with her, and they were both like, I feel like I'm looking at my older self. I feel like I'm looking at my younger self. It's trippy.
I just got chills a little bit.
Yeah, I'll show you. There's a photo my sister did side by side of them, and it's wild. It's wild.
Oh, man. That's crazy.
Maybe she's my real mother. I don't know. JK.
Diana, we love you. So I want to do a little bit of a sidebar right now. I want to talk about, because this is a show called EMOlition Derby, and I hate being on the nose about emo a bit. And we were just having discussion about pulling from dark subject matter for your music.
Yes,
darkness.
Yeah, I'm too dark apparently.
So I'm going to flip it on a different kind of level here. To me, emo has always meant to me, because I think all music is emo. I mean, all music should be emotional. If not, it's Imagine Dragons. But
oh my God.
love you, whatever is. The interface died, Joe, just for editing purposes. That's
Imagine
what happened.
Dragons
We were talking about Imagine Dragons, and the NSA shut us down, or the Mormon Church, I believe. Whatever it was, send help. So, like, to me, emo, because like I was saying, like all music is emo, like to a degree, like it has emotion. Like, I don't think you would ever put out a song that didn't have an ounce of emotion.
Although AIs might be taking us over, so maybe soon.
Well, they're listening, so I'm not going to say anything.
Alexa, turn off.
They are sentient. But so to me, like emo has always meant like minor chords, maybe a more melodramatic vocal delivery. And to me, I think emo has a little bit of like this dose of like a little bit of chills, a little bit of goosebumps, a little bit of cuteness, and a little bit of like butterflies in your tummy.
All right.
That's how I describe emo. So is there any song from your category with that just hippy dippy kind of, definition of emo I just gave you right there? Is there any song from your catalog that kind of makes you get into that emo space? I'm not talking about like emo, like it's a sad song or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it just feels like this youthful energy that is just unbridled emotion, essentially.
Yeah, I have two.
Yeah.
For me, one is Orphan.
Okay.
There's moments in Orphan that we always say, Nick and I say, like our definition of a perfect song is one that makes you perfect for us, is one that makes you feel happy and sad at the same time. And Orphan does that for me. And I don't listen to, like, I don't really like just like jam around with our music, but once in a while I'll be like, oh, I kind of want to hear this again. And it always brings me back to that place. And there is, I picture like this little kid in me with like, remember Where the Wild Things Are? Like Max? Like I picture that, like this little kid that's just like rising up with all of their little demons. And that's what Orphan gives me. But from the newer music that we've written on Eat It Up, Spit It Out, I would say I'm Messy, actually. I'm Messy kind of gives that little bit of an emo vibe for me.
Yeah, I don't know why Suck It Up comes up to me, even though I don't know why, but that one makes me, like, when you talk about youthful and something about that song has like a little bit kind of a rebellious thing about it that makes me feel young,
Yeah.
I love that. That's amazing.
And what about you?
Well, lately,
Alessandro in the hot seat.
you know, to be honest, I mean, me and Rachel were just talking about this today. I think I have a problem.
What do you mean?
listen to too much hardcore now.
Yeah.
I get really obsessed with things. And even Joe, who's going to be listening to this, editing it,
Yeah.
I get very obsessed with music. So I don't think there hasn't been a ton of emo going on for me, actually.
Yeah.
It's just fucking dun, 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 dun.
I'm in that same place. It's more punk leaning for me, but yeah. Like I need just like rage.
Yeah, right? Yeah, it's like, it's my life is an emo song. You know? I mean, I don't know. Is there a favorite? Because I know Nick, you grew up with emo. I think Kat, you
Yeah.
you grew
I
up
was
with
the
a little
biggest
bit of-
My Chemical Romance fan
Okay,
ever.
okay. So I didn't know that.
The first time around, I know now they got their resurgence with the Gen Zers, but I was in that first group. I was obsessed. Yeah, I cried.
Wow.
And when I met the singer, which I did, it was the most embarrassing moment of my life. I told him I loved him
Really?
over and over.
I bet he's never heard that from a fan.
I know,
ever.
but that's the thing. I was there with a friend who was working out, or is maybe still, but at the time was working at Warner as their head of merch over there. And he was like, oh yeah, he knew I was such a big fan. And they did like an intimate show at the Roxy before they went to Japan. So it was just for industry or contest winners. It was very intimate. And it was the second time I've seen them play. The first time was at the Forum. Second time was there. And he's like, you want to meet the band? And I was like, what? Oh yeah. And I'm like, okay, play it cool. And I just was getting into music at that time. So I was like, okay, I gotta like, I'm one of them. Like we're equal, And as soon I met the rest of the band, I was carrying a conversation well, no problem at all. And then Gerard Way, I was just like, I love you. And he's like, oh, thanks. I was like, no, I love you. Like, I love you. And then I just couldn't stop saying it because I got nervous.
Leave
It's like
your
when
wife, I love you.
yeah, it's like with the moment when you're high and you're laughing at the giggle fits and you're high, so you keep laughing.
Yeah.
I was in that emotion where I just was like, I can't. And I just started backing away. I was like, I'm sorry. And my friend was like, get the fuck out of here, please. Like, you're embarrassing me. So yeah, I was like that over that band. That was my biggest emo.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What about you, Nick?
What was the question?
What's your
emo?
What was like your? And let me say this. We're not talking like emo night. I'm sad as fuck. We're talking like just what it could even be like post-hardcore bands that you loved growing up or anything like that. Just anything that was a part of a scene that really resonated with you. And if you have a story of you fanboying, fangirling, fan whatever, please do tell.
A song.
Or a band.
A band. What was like
who
a
was
pretty
your favorite
instrumental.
Oh,
emo
like
band?
favorite emo band?
Yeah.
Let me think. I said, it kind of leaned less kind of emo and more on like the harder side.
That's fine.
But I love Taking Back Sunday. I think them. I liked My Chemical Romance. They're never really one of my favorites, but I like them more now.
What was the harder stuff though? Because we consider it all emo. I mean, Metallica's emo.
Yeah. I loved AFI. They were huge influence on me, and I loved them. Saw them play multiple times, and of course, like we got to meet Hunter and work with him later on, and he's become like a really great friend and supporter of us. So AFI, they've got tons of emo stuff in there.
What about that guy you were in a band with, Falling Reverse?
Oh,
They were in a band.
we don't have to talk about that.
Okay.
So, like, you bring up AFI. So, what would you say is your favorite AFI song? Like, obviously you bring up Nitro Records, so I'm sure you're probably like a Black Sails and Sunset guy.
Totally, yeah. That was my favorite.
That
for
was
sure.
your favorite?
Oh
one?
yeah.
Oh
yeah.
damn. Okay, first
you
try.
nailed it.
All
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that one was my favorite. God Called in Sick Today. That thing's amazing. And I forget the names now, but there's that other slow one on there that Dexter Holland's singing background vocals on.
Yes.
That one's great. And is that the one that there's like also like a a secret track on that one, or am I thinking of
Sing the Sorrow I think was the
Okay.
first one to have a secret track.
Yeah. But yeah, that was my favorite one for sure. Yeah.
Because Ethan, our co-host, that's his favorite band. I think we both agree that our favorite AFI song, if I may, is track 8, The Great Disappointment off Sing the Sorrow. Hunter's bass line. Oh my God.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You know, Hunter was actually a big reason of our Born Dark bass line.
Really?
Yeah.
He
That's pretty cool. Yeah, when we worked with him on Born Dark, and so he came over to our place and he picked up our bass and he was writing bass lines on it, and he kind of plunked out that one, and I learned it from him, and that's how we recorded it. Yeah. And then he brought his basses, and when we went to the studio to record that, and he said, "This is my number one bass that I use for all the important studio stuff. This is the one that I use." So I know it's on all those records. This bass that we used on Born Dark, it played like amazing. It sounded great, and I wish I would have played some AFI riffs on it, but I was trying to be professional. So
I would have splooged my pants. I mean, Hunter's like, "Hey, here, try the bass." Oh, fuck. We'll cut that. Well, I don't want to take up more of the time. I just have a couple quick little.
Oh yeah, I'm good.
Quick little questions.
This bitch can talk all night. Let's fucking go. So
I think Holy Wars. We talked about it earlier. They can. The band can fit on so many different bills. It's a multi-genre. It's a genre-bending band. From what I've heard, word on the street that you guys might be venturing into some more heavy territory coming up.
Actually, yeah. I kind of look at it as like we're going back to the core of who we always were, and it was always heavier, a bit darker. Not that I look at anything that we do as dark, because like that conversation, I don't look at my music or look at my thoughts as dark. It just is. That's my thought. It's not dark or light. It's my thought. But yeah, we both love heavy music and fast and just like taking chances. And we always love experimenting and expanding what we are capable of doing. And I think this next group of music is going to be faster, maybe even more chaotic in moments, and definitely heavier. And going back to that just emo, that emotion that we started this band with, which came from a place of grief and empowerment and just trying to speak in the most authentic levels possible. And that's always what we were, and kind of we're going back there, but bringing it with that modern sound that we've also developed in this time.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. We love doing all sorts of music, and a lot of our different influences have kind of worked their way into our last record. But the new stuff we're going to be working on is going to take our favorite parts of that and also have some stuff that is maybe just going to be a lot more satisfying for people coming and seeing us play live. Like a lot more heavy moments and a lot faster moments, and giving ourselves the freedom to take some chances. And like when we're writing now, I'm grabbing my 7 strings and 8 strings first.
I was gonna make a joke. I was gonna ask. I was like, "You got an 8 string coming up?"
Yeah. I mean that, and it's. But then I'm using those, but trying not to do the typical things that you would do with those, because
we've heard it.
You're not genting all over.
No. But maybe we could, if we did it in like a cool way. Maybe that would be like we would, if it's cool, then I think we'll do it.
We're intentional with what we do.
Yeah, you're not. I mean, I don't think you're trying to swoop up all the gentlemen. If you know what I'm saying. The gentlemen.
Yeah,
that's cool. That's really exciting. I think anytime we've been at your shows, anytime Kat lets out a scream, it's like, holy shit. Or if Nick's guitar, it cuts out for a bit and Nick's just playing something real chuggy on the guitar. And I think, humans, we are, at the end of the day, we're kind of just dumb animals to a degree.
Yeah.
And we love hearing big boom boom. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like,
Or
we
lights too. Lights play such a huge part. We just witnessed it last night, watching Muse. Incredible musicians, obviously, but then also the light show. It's you can't. I felt like a dumb human where I just was like, yes, more, give me more.
You guys ever see Tenacious D in The Pick of Destiny?
Yeah.
You know when like he blows the guy's mind literally?
Yeah. That's
can we expect that?
One could hope. We hope. But yeah, my favorite parts of a show sometimes is the energy and just. I don't know. Like, I don't want to go see a perfect, just very safe band or hear an album like that. I love moments where you don't know what's going to happen. And I like intentional things, So if we are going to get Genty in a part, we meant to. It wasn't because we're like, oh, this is, I don't know, trendy or whatever the fuck. It's more just about this is what we felt best served this song and what we wanted to say that day,
Yeah.
That's all I gotta say about that.
You just look over, Nick's in a fedora, and he's got a 12-string guitar. He's got the Doom soundtrack in his he's got a periphery tattoo on his chest. Oh my goodness. Well, I want to finish off. I mean, we're giggling a little bit, and I'm going to do a bit of I'm going to do a lowbrow question. I want to ask just what's the funniest shit that's happened either on stage or on tour within your guys' creative life,
Oh my God, I'm so bad at these. But I know so much shit happens I can't remember anything.
A lot of shits probably do happen on the road.
I'm just disassociating most of the time.
Funniest thing, I don't know if this is the funniest, but the first one that comes to mind is I used to play guitar for this other band where I was just like a hired guitar player for it, and I toured with this band a few times, and we were playing this place. This band had like a really spike in popularity, but this was sort of kind of like the down incline of it. And so we were booked to play in this place that was really huge, but there was almost nobody there. And the whole show just had a really weird energy to it. And everybody was feeling pretty down, and we always did an encore every night, and we're all in agreement that, okay, we're not going to do an encore tonight because it's just going to be weird. But the keyboard player in the band, who had kind of taken over as like the main kind of ego person in the band, he was like really wanted to do it. So when we were finishing our set, the details are a little fuzzy, but like he said, no, we're going to do an encore. And so he ran onto stage with his arms high in the air, like really like celebrating, and he tripped over my guitar cable, and it pulled my amp onto the ground and knocked it over, and this gigantic spring reverb went out into the house, an empty house. So there was like a collection of 40 people there in this place that fits hundreds that were covering their ears, and they just saw like an empty stage, and this guy ran out and then tripped over and knocked over the amps. And so,
oh my God.
So that's the one that comes to mind.
Oh, that's incredible.
I actually forgot about that story. I remember you told me that story. Mine's more potty humor, I guess. I just thought of was when we opened for Papa Roach at the Roxy, and somebody laid out the most rotten egg fart I've ever smelled in my life. And I was singing, mouth open, clearly. And
Do you taste it?
definitely.
Yeah.
And it had to have been somebody from the front row, but I thought it was our bass player. Our bass player thought it was me. The whole time we were eyeing each other of like, is it you? Is it? And then afterwards he was like, I thought it was you. I was like, the fact that you think that this disgusting scent can come out of my body is insulting. But it was probably one of the bros in the front row. But that's the only thing I can think of. I mean, there's so much other shit that's happened. I know it. Like I said, I cringe all the time. So something cringy has happened. But that moment is the first thing I can think of, that I ate a disgusting fan's fart or somebody's fart or my own bandmate's fart right on stage in front of everybody. And then just played through it, just smiled through it.
I'm going to spend my life trying to find out who did that fart for you. Okay. Could be somebody in this room. You never
Some
know.
disgusting
I wasn't at the
fart
show, so it
from
wasn't
a
me.
lovely fan. No offense to whoever farted. But
They might listen to this they might be a fan of this podcast, and then
If it was you,
They call in like an anonymous call and they're like, it was me.
it tasted like eggs. Not in a good way. Yeah.
So if you're coming to a Holy War show, you know,
Please fart in my face.
yeah, I was gonna say don't fart, but you know what? I mean, it sounds like bring your farts, you know?
You know what? We don't discriminate.
Bring 'em
Bring the
all.
farts.
Bring 'em
yeah,
all.
bring them out. But yeah, so much. That's the biggest one. It's like I can always think because Matt and I, we still laugh about that all the time. He's like, I'm still not convinced it wasn't you.
Wow. Well, so this is your opportunity. I mean, you're setting the record straight. It was not you. I'm looking you in your eyes. I'm pretty sure it
I
wasn't.
promise.
You.
I will claim every fart. That was not me.
Because I mean, if it was that disgusting, I feel like you'd almost want to own it at that point. Like, damn, like, that
You know
was
what? It
me.
probably would have given me so much cred because I'm a short person, you know? So like I feel like I got to be pretty big, loud in some ways to be seen or heard or smelled, you know? Like,
Well, we ate
I gotta
Brussels
be smelled.
sprouts tonight. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
That will
let's
give me
see
gas
what's-
later,
we'll
but
see what.
it won't be your problem.
It
You'll
won't be, yeah,
fine.
Nick, you know. Well, on that note, let's end.
Is there any redemption here? Is that the last thing we're going to end on?
I think in all seriousness, though, this is amazing. You know, this is our first in-person episode for the show.
Yeah, that's
Podcast
fun.
launches this week, actually,
congrats.
which is crazy. So
Hey.
this is in the future. The podcast will already have been out for weeks. By the
So
time
are we
you
allowed
hear
to
this.
know who the first guest is?
Yes, you can.
You can say it
It
now?
is Joe Boynton from the band Transit.
All right. Nice.
One of my favorite kind of pop punk, melodic hardcore type bands
All right.
back in the day. It's the first guest.
Nice.
And then after that is Paul McCartney,
Okay. No big deal.
Jim Morrison,
Oh, back from the dead. The
um,
corpse of Jim Morrison.
and George Michael. Yeah.
Another.
Yeah. We gotta have faith, you know.
Yeah.
There you have it. Another episode in the books. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends, family, and enemies. Additionally, feel free to leave us a review wherever you listen to this podcast. It goes a long way and it helps us keep the show rolling. You can follow us on Instagram at EMOlition Derby to stay up to date on upcoming episodes, Q&As, exclusive content, and more. Thanks again, and we will see you next time.